once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin. I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Jazz?
Hey.
And no Kai Havertz scored again tonight, unfortunately. And here with Pascal. Paz, how you doing, mate?
What's going on? The three amigos back.
Yeah,
it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while. There's been some stuff going on. Paz, you fought COVID. Was that time 2 or 3 now with COVID?
There's 2.
2? Okay.
2,
I'm on 2 as well, I think.
Yeah, it's I think we're doing well on 2, to be honest. It's not bad going for something that's been around for about 3 years and all around us. But I knew it was going to happen. Everyone was coughing on the plane, so you just know it's going to head your way at some point.
Yeah, I think it's nailed on. Everybody's going to it's going to go around every Christmas, basically. As soon as you get to Garen's people, it's going to go round. That's about it. Jazz, how was your first Christmas in the Netherlands?
Pretty uneventful, really. But can't complain. We got snow today, which was nice. My first snow in several years. As you know, you guys being in South Florida know. But
don't get much snow in Boca.
No, no. But yeah. I mean, it was nice. You know, it was funny. It's like so like right on like New Year's Day, the Christmas trees were just piled up on the corner for trash to take away, but it was like a huge pile. And you know, this is just all stuff that's kind of new to me. I mean, you guys being from the UK, you know, probably experienced something like it, but there's been just a couple of things that have been a little bit of a trip, you know.
And that was in South Florida that just gets set on fire.
Yeah.
And you got the new Dennis Bergkamp. Is it an €8 note?
Oh yeah, I do. You want to see it?
Yeah, and for everyone listening, because obviously it's not a visual medium, we're going to stick a picture of it up on the Instagram and on Twitter as well. It's very cool. If you haven't heard about this, the Dutch government released some limited edition €8 bills with Dennis Bergkamp on, and pose from when he brought the ball down and scored against Argentina. So amazing. we will post the pictures of this. Justin got his grubby little mitts on one. He's supposed to be getting a couple more, but me and Pads are still waiting for our letters in the mail.
Well, subconsciously, I prepared myself for this by having orange.
You were already dressed in orange. Nice. Yeah, they look pretty cool, Jazz. How are they close up?
It's really cool. I barely even like handling it because, you know, I want it to last. Like I did say, I did make a request to the treasury, like the lady at the ABN Bank. That's what she told me to do. She was like, there's a website you can go on, and it's like the Dutch treasury, and you can request them. I've not heard anything from them. I bought this one. It was €25, and I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I'm glad I bought it.
Yeah, it does look very cool. So like I said, we'll get some pictures of it up, and we'll put it out on the socials because it is it's a very, very impressive thing. All right, guys. So less impressive has been our form over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. It's not terminal, but I'll be honest with you, I do think it's probably fucked us for winning the league. I think that's probably gone because it means that you can't slip up again, and I just don't see that happening. Paz, what have you made of the last few weeks, our inability to score and just the silly drop in of points, really? Which one, question for you, out of all these games, which one has infuriated you the most?
I think Fulham, because we were just so shit. I think that really infuriated me because I would have thought after West Ham, you've lost, which, you know, again, I think it's just, you could look at that as kind of a freak result because we had so many chances and we just didn't take the chances. And then their goal was debatable. The first one, going out of play, it looked like, and and then there was the header of a set piece. So I guess West Ham you could look at was kind of a freak result. But then to follow that up with such a poor performance against Fulham and just be so abject and predictable, sterile, and also take the lead, that I think frustrated me the most out of all three.
Yeah, Fulham, we were just poor. I mean, that was just a bad performance. We didn't deserve any more than we got. For me, the West Ham game was actually the most frustrating because the Fulham, I can accept that we played really badly and we didn't get anything from the game. The West Ham game, I found that harder to accept because we literally just battered them and then gave away two absolutely stupid goals. You're right. The first one, the ball was out of play, but I understand why the VAR couldn't pull that back because there's no definitive angle of it. So I do understand it, but it was out of play. Like, there's no doubt it was out of play. We just didn't have a video of it, which I kind of get. But it was just the wasted chances and stuff, and it's been a theme throughout the season.
Yeah.
Juz, where have you fell on these last few games?
I think they're both equally infuriating, both games you guys referenced, but for different reasons. Obviously, West Ham, we played a lot better, like a lot better, and it just didn't happen for us. Like you referenced already, the ball going out of play is a point of contention, and then like Paz mentioned, Fulham, it was probably our worst performance in a long time. I mean, a long time.
Yeah, and the ball going out of play, Juz, that shouldn't really. I mean, like, okay, it was out, whatever, but that's not why we lost that game. Do you know what I mean?
No, of course not.
We should have been home and hosed by that point.
Yeah, no. I agree 100% with that. It's just a hand-wringing moment, I feel. But, I mean, between the two, I mean, I got to be with Paz on this one. I think it's Fulham. I just think with how abject the performance was, it's hard not to be frustrated by that. I would
kind of feels like an outlier to me, Juz, because like in every other game, Newcastle, Villa, I don't think we deserve to lose them games. West Ham, even Liverpool at the weekend. I think like there's been reasons. So obviously you can't say you deserve to win a game when you don't score. That's just a fact of life. In all four of those games, we didn't score. But in all four of them games, we played well, and I don't think that we deserve to lose them. The Fulham game was different, so I'm kind of willing to put the Fulham game aside as an outlier. But I mean, everybody's worried about the lack of goals, right? Like that is the panic right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the lack of production from our front three right now is it's got to be the most concerning thing to pretty much all Gooners. I mean, Martinelli is well below par. Even Saka he's underperforming. I mean, Jesus and Nketiah, Odegaard. I mean, we're looking at way less goals at this point versus last year, and that it's just not a good sign.
Have you got any idea of how to rectify this? Like, is it we're into January now, transfer window's open. Personally, I don't think we're going to do anything, and I also don't think it would solve anything, by the way. I don't think spending 50 million quid on Ivan Toney would solve anything. But have you got any ideas? Is it just a case of saying, well, we know Saka and Martinelli both got 15 14 goals last season, Odegaard got 15, Jesus got 11 in half a season. Is it just a case of saying, well, we've just got to stick with it because the goals are going to come? Or is there a fundamental change? Because this isn't a one-off. This has been the case for most of the season. Even the games we've won, we've been winning by really narrow margins. Even games we're absolutely controlling and dominating for 80 and 90%, we're winning by one goal. And then, on the odd occasion where we've either screwed up, like Fulham at home, or we haven't managed to score, we're in trouble.
Yeah, and also even games where, like Brighton, it was nervy. until we scored the second goal, when really we should have put that game to bed way before. Nottingham Forest on the opening day of the season, it was just unnecessary. We just put ourselves in a bit of a bad position because of the lack of prowess in front of goal. But it's a hard one, Gav, because I know there's the argument that we've been a bit predictable, which I have said. But then at the same time, I look back like you did as well on the Liverpool game, and it was Route 1, Ramsdale through to Nelson, and he just doesn't finish. It was just appalling, like what his whole posture, everything. But that was a different approach. That's a Route 1 direct. I think some of our play has been, we've definitely created the chances. So it's not as if we are all the time overly predictable. Otherwise, we wouldn't create chances.
Well, we're creating different chances as well, Pat. So you've got the one at the top that you talked about. Then we had the one where Ødegaard ended up hitting the bar, where we've won it high, where Saka's nicked it high. Then we had the one where Ødegaard cut inside, give it a Havertz, and he wouldn't shoot on his left foot, and he took 4 touches, and it ended up with Saka going in. So we're creating all sorts of different chances, and I do think we played differently against Liverpool. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this as well, but we set up differently. We set up with 4 with a screen of 2 in front. We played more like a 4-2-3-1 with Ødegaard and Havertz almost interchanging as the front man and the 10. So we did line up differently. Ødegaard was noticeably more central than on the right, I thought.
Yeah, no, that is correct. And credit to Arteta from that side, in that he tried to come up with something a little bit different. But the issue seems to be that I would like us to also play through the middle a bit more, because we don't always have to rely on the wings. I think through the middle just gives us that extra alternative. But the problem you have is Jesus is not reliable enough to be a goal scorer, and he tends to get injured a lot. Eddie Nketiah, we know, I don't need to go on about what his flaws are. Havertz, we see again, he's not really someone who you can rely on to put the ball in the back of the net. And yesterday proved that. He missed a sitter of a header. Then when he has the chance to shoot on goal, it's just feeble. So I think we could do a bit more of that, but then that goes back to your point about maybe getting a goal scorer. But I agree with you. We're not going to get anyone in this window. We're not going to get anyone of caliber. Tony, they're quoting 100 million. Forget it. So I think it's just perhaps just working on the players that we have to look into ways to get more of, to take these chances, to be more, to have more in the box. Our set pieces have been good. We've scored, and that was worrying actually, because against Liverpool, you probably, one of you knows, but our set pieces has been quite a lot throughout the season where we score from set pieces. That's kind of worrying as well, because it's not enough coming from open play. I've said this before anyway in the chat. I'm not going to say FA Cup is insignificant, because that just looks like sour grapes. But I do feel this reset is something that we did not get last year properly. We'll get now 2 weeks, which is like gold dust in Premier League football, 2-week break in winter. I feel that's going to help us a lot. Gather out, get together, have a rest, because there's, I'm hearing rumors, Saka's playing with an injury, White's playing with an injury. It could do us a world of good, and I'm hoping it does, because there has to be something that the manager has to put into that team to reinvigorate it, because there seems to be a loss of confidence, especially in the final third.
It does. People don't seem to want to hit the ball at the minute. I mean, at the start of the season, people were criticising Ødegaard for shooting too much, and now he's not shooting at all. Havertz wants 5 touches before he'll strike the ball. I've been saying all year that I think Saka's taking too many touches on the ball. I think all of our players take too many touches, basically. I don't think we move the ball quick enough. Yeah. And I think there's too much coming backwards, and there's too many touches of the ball rather than just going straight for goal. Juz, is there anything that can be done to get Martinelli and Saka basically closer to goal? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking. This is my only thought on how, and I'm not Mikel Arteta, but if you can get them two closer to goal, get them closer to Jesus, Havertz, whoever's playing up front, use the fullbacks wider if you want, don't care how you do it. But I think they're our most dangerous players. We've got to find a way to get them closer to goal.
Man, Nate, that's actually a like a really difficult position, and I don't envy Arteta for being in this. I will say what I've noticed a big difference of this season versus last is how static our front three are, and they don't seem to rotate. I mean, amongst themselves. They don't seem to rotate amongst themselves near as much because we used to see Jesus pop up on the left, Martinelli pop up in the center, at certain points. And I feel like we're not seeing that at all this season. They're all very static in where they are. And I'm not saying that's the be all end all, of our issues, but I do think it's worth noting that, like with all their shortage of goals and them not like rotating as much. I mean, I think it's got to be a negative, right?
It has to be. I mean, something has changed between last season and this season. We've gone from a team that scored 90 goals from a team that's on course for, I think, 68 or something like that. And it's just not going to get it done. We've got to find a different way to do it. But also, our defence has gone to shit. We started December with easily the best defence in the league. And we're still kind of almost around there on numbers, but it's nowhere near as close as it was. I think the stats that I heard this morning is from the last 61 shots, we've produced 6.7 XG and scored 1 goal. In that same time, we've conceded 10 shots on our goal that have given 1 point something XG, and we've conceded 5.
Jesus.
So, like, Paz, I mean, is it just a run of bad luck? I mean, I don't see Man City having this run of bad luck. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know, because I think you already mentioned, which is true, that throughout the whole season we've had difficulties besides a few games where, what was the game we won 5-0? Was that Sheffield United?
Sheffield United.
Where Nketiah scored that hat-trick. I mean, there's a few games like that, but a lot of the games that we played, we kind of, I wouldn't say we've grinded out a result, but I would say that we made it more difficult than what it should have been. And we've won by 1 goal, or we score a goal late on to make it 2-0, like the Brighton game. So we have struggled. And, I hate to bring it back, but I think the number 8 is still a problem. We're missing Xhaka. I mean, whatever you want to, whatever your thoughts on Xhaka and whether it was the right move to sell him or not, I know it's debatable. Some people say it was the right time, but we're missing that player that runs into the box. What he provided for us offensively last season, as well as defensively, was something we have not had this season. And he contributed to goals and assists. We're just not getting that. What I wanted to say, actually, just going back, do you remember after the Liverpool game? Do you remember the interview with Saka? Did you see how disappointed he was? Because even after the Liverpool game when we drew 1-1, after the Liverpool game we drew 1-1, they were disappointed because they did not take their chances or make most of it in the final third. So even the signs were in games like that before we went through the defeat. So I think even there was an acknowledgement of the players that it's just not happening in that final third.
Justin?
Yeah, I've got to agree. I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, so we have a streaky striker in Jesus, and then we have 2 out of form, really special kids in Martinelli and Saka. And then I don't know. I think, Odegaard is, he's kind of misfiring as well, but I do think a lot of this comes from what Paz mentioned, a lack of Xhaka. I know, Gav, you're a bit more of a Havertz fan than I think me and Paz are. But I do think that that's the biggest difference in the lineup this year, and it does seem to be creating.
I tell you how I see it, Judge. I tell you how I see it.
Go ahead, because I don't want to.
I do think Havertz can be an effective player for us, but I think we've got to learn how it can happen. And this is what I see from my untrained eye. bringing Havertz into the lineup as well as Rice and taking out Partey and Xhaka, what we've done is we've lost a little bit of this progressive passing and the ability to split the lines quickly, right? Sure. Because that's not what Havertz is not and never will be a ball player, right? What have I said the whole way along? He's a poor man's David Platt. He's not going to get on the ball and beat players. He's not going to play progressive passes. That's just not his game.
But that's kind of almost insane to say when he came up as like a wonder kid in Germany, being like a miraculous number 10.
I get that, but have you seen any of that from him?
No, I haven't personally.
I don't think he's got that. I just do not think that's what he is. I think he's someone that needs to crash the box late and get on the end of chances coming from deep. I think that's
so he shouldn't be in the left 8 though at all. Then
I'll be blatantly honest with you here. He shouldn't be playing for Arsenal. Is my honest opinion, right? That is my honest opinion. I do not think he's a good enough footballer to play for Arsenal. I don't think the confidence there, none of that. I don't think he's a good enough footballer to play in this team. But I still think you can use him as an effective weapon if you use him right. But I think what we've done, I think we've lost a lot of that forward passing, a lot of the breaking the lines passing. And I think that's affected Martinelli badly, especially Martinelli. Because the way him and Saka used to do that scissor motion and go in and out, and the way Xhaka would be able to find him, I think that he is badly missing that. A consequence of it is also that Ødegaard is now dropping further and further back. Ødegaard's heat map is a lot deeper. It wasn't at the weekend for the first time in God knows how long, but Ødegaard's heat map is going to be a lot deeper if you look at it, because he's the one who's coming back to break the lines. That's affecting that right-hand side, right, with Saka, because Ødegaard is now not in the positions that he was in. He's now dropping deeper. It's also going to affect his goal output because, again, he's picking the ball up 70 yards from goal instead of 30 yards from goal. Of course, it's just natural that that's going to affect everything. So I think what we've got is we've got a side that's been unbalanced. And I know that Arteta had a plan to change the style and to change it into it. I just don't know if this style is actually going to work. The only thing that I think gives me kind of a bit of optimism is that Arteta has changed the style every year. So I don't think there's ever going to be a final evolution. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're ever going to say, well, that's the final project, because I think he's always going to be looking for one more thing. Juz, I don't know. Do you agree with all that? Are you seeing something different to me?
No. I agree 100%. I think what's interesting is that Havertz started in the 9 at the weekend, and I think it's his best position.
I agree.
I do. And
I agree. I think it's his best position as well, but I don't think he can play that position for us.
No. Yeah. That was I was kind of going there as well. I think Havertz's best position is 9, and I think he's not good enough to play there for us. Yeah.
I think we've got a bunch of players that you're fine with them coming off the bench for little cameos here and there, but they should not be starting for this team. I think you've got Kai Havertz, you've got obviously Eddie Nketiah, you've got Reece Nelson. I think I'm putting Leandro Trossard into that bracket as well. These are all players that are not good enough to start for a side that wants to win the title. They're all players that can come off the bench for the last 20, 25 minutes, right? But they cannot start. They're your Xherdan Shaqiri type players for Liverpool, where it's fine to bring him on 15 minutes to go when something you need something, but they shouldn't be starting. And I just think we've collected a lot of them players. And I think when you look at it back, and me and Paz were having this debate back and forward today, I think when you look at the summer and 65 million on Havertz and 30 million on David Raya, I think that is an awful waste of resources. I think he's fixed something that didn't need to be fixed. I think he would have been better off with 100 million on one player that could have replaced Xhaka or a centre forward if you want, and not done that, Paz.
Or maybe not even sell Xhaka, leave it one more year. I don't know, so that you can ease into whatever transition you want to make. I think to replace one of, I know people have said it was the right time to sell him, cash in on him, whatever, but I don't know if he really knew what the plan was after selling him. And that's the problem. I think we're sitting in a transitional stage here. If you had him at least for another season, then work in whatever plan you have to make it a bit easier. I think that would have made more sense to me, because I feel he's we had a great season last season, and I feel Arteta is learning all the time. But I think he would have to look back on that summer and look at a few of those transfers, and really probably, I think he might be too stubborn to admit, but just think back and see what was the point in them. Raya was, we've said this a few times. He's not an upgrade, is he, on Ramsdale? He's not. We've seen that. There's nothing that he offers that you could potentially say is better than Ramsdale. Maybe they were saying delivery of the ball, but I'm not seeing that. And Havertz, I just don't know how you can justify 65 million on a player that can't even really shoot a ball. I mean, I've seen him score a header, one where he's got an open goal and a penalty. I've not seen him take any decent long shot, or even when that
well, he looks horrendous, Paz, when he tries. I mean, it looks awful when he tries. It looks like he can't believe it.
It's
amazing. Even Eddie Nketiah scored from outside the box this season, and he hit it hard in top corner. He had that skill yesterday where he went wide and then did one of the worst feeble shots against one of the best keepers in the world. It's just like, what is that? So I feel that we will have to look back on summer and really, probably plays a big part in why we're suffering at the moment. And yes, Rice has been great and Timber's been very unfortunate, because I think those two, especially, both those two would have been, in Timber's case, would have been excellent. But yeah, it's I think we're just going to have to stick with it until summer. That's the unfortunate thing. And that means having Raya as well, because it looks like we're going to trigger that option, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's a question about it. I think we are definitely going to trigger that Raya option. I mean, to me, I think that's not 3 million and 27 million. That's 30 million gone. We've just deferred part of it. I don't think there's a maybe we'll, maybe we won't. We are going to do it no matter what we think. And at this point, I think there might only be two people in the world that think that it's a good idea, and that's Mikel Arteta and Inaki Canyon. I just don't. I'm not sure that anyone else thinks that's a good idea at all. But it is what it is, and it's going to happen. Just we're coming to the point now with a few of these players, I think, where they are going to be looking for a way out. I don't like going to you with this question, but Emil Smith-Rowe. I mean, we I don't know how many times we can have this conversation. Right, we're into January now. The boy's going to have to go for his own good, because he brought him on yesterday. What, 88 minutes?
88 minutes. Yep.
The fuck is the point in that?
Yeah.
So I'm an Arsenal fan, first. But I do love me some Emil Smith-Rowe, as you guys and all the listeners know. I don't know, what the issue is. I feel like every time he comes on, he does okay, but he gets like 3 minutes, And yesterday was another good example. It's like, give the man at least 15, 20 minutes and see what he can do. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be biased here, but yes, Gav, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I think you actually might be right this time. I think as much as I still think he could contribute to Arsenal and be, an excellent option off the bench, apparently Arteta doesn't think that, which is, he knows more than I do. But yeah, I think it's probably about time.
I find it incredibly frustrating to watch the camera pan to Emil Smith-Rowe sitting on a bench when I'm watching a team go 3 games where they just basically can't hit a cow's arse with a banjo. He's tried Trossard at left 8. He's putting Havertz at left 8. Then he's playing Havertz up top, and he drops Martinelli, but it's Trossard that he brings in on the left wing, and then it's Nelson that he brings in on the left wing. And I don't know. I find it very frustrating sitting there watching Emil Smith-Rowe, just looking on. And it's quite clear at this point, right, that he's just not going to use him, because if he was going to, he would have done it by now. He started him in one game before he got injured, and that was it. So we're getting to the point now where I think for his own good, he is going to have to leave. The player who I think has been linked with an exit more than anyone is Eddie. And I heard this question phrased on another podcast today, and I thought it was interesting to get everyone else's view on it, because my view has kind of changed on it a little bit. If an offer was to come in for Eddie, let's call it 30 million, because I think 40 million's a bit ridiculous and laughable. I think 30 million's laughable as well. But let's say an offer of 30 million did come in for Eddie. Would you take it in January if you knew you couldn't get anyone else in? So no incomings, Eddie out for 30 million. Would you do it? Pass?
Yep, I'll do it.
Jazz?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd do it too. I don't think I would rather see Havertz start up top. I would rather see Trossard start up top.
Yes.
I don't think Eddie is necessary for this squad right now. I think it's a different case when you're talking about Kivior, who again I think is way short of the standard required to play for Arsenal. His signing reminds me a little bit, not quite as bad, but a little bit of Igor Stepanov's, where you've got a player that's a million miles below the level of the rest of the squad. You've brought him in as a bit of a chance, and it hasn't worked, and you're going to have to move on. And I think we will move on from Kivior, by the way. I don't think Kivior will be at the club next season. I think he'll be sold in the summer. But you can't sell him in January, because we literally do not have the numbers. So you can't sell him in January. But with Eddie, I think in that position, I do think we've got enough cover, and I would sell him. Just?
Yes, I agree 100%. I'd rather see Trossard or Havertz in the 100% over Eddie at this point. To me, Eddie is fourth choice at center forward. I don't hate him. I think he's a solid player. He's Haaland, or kind of Haaland. Chelsea, that Chelsea history.
They've all come from Chelsea, though. You know when Yeri came from Chelsea too, right? And Lewis Skelly.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they both came from. Yeah, they both played for Chelsea before they played for us. They all played for it. Eddie's been with us since he was like 13 or 14. But
16, I think. 16.
Was he that old? But yeah, they've all been somewhere else first.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's fine. But Haaland and stuff. But yeah, I'd prefer Trossard or Havertz there any day. Any opponent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't see the point of him hanging around at this point. But personally, again, I don't think that offer's going to come. I think there will be offers for Eddie, but I think they're going to be loan offers, and I don't see. I just think 30 million is dreaming. Basically, I think if we got 15, I think that would be incredibly fortunate.
I mean, the Crystal Palace links keep popping up.
Yeah, the Palace links keep coming up, and I do think that if you did that, I do think West Ham would probably get involved as well. They do need a forward, and I do think Eddie would do okay for them. They've also been linked with Reece as well. Reece is another one that if the right money came in January, I would consider letting him go without a replacement, because he barely plays. I know he started on Sunday, but that's a rarity. That's he rarely plays. Pass, how would you feel about that one?
Yeah, again, I mean, I like Reece, as he seems like a nice enough kid, but I again, we've questioned this before. What was the point in this renewal of his contract? I just don't understand it. And I think Smith Rowe is a much better player than him, and he starts a game and he's just not cut it for me. He does not cut it from I know there was that Bournemouth game. I know we relived that moment and everything, but I think generally when you look at him as a player, I don't see what he really brings. And I don't think he's someone you'll miss if he's sold. And I think particularly because he's being picked ahead of Smith Rowe. And I feel these type of players, maybe not so much Nelson because he hasn't played that many games, but Eddie, Havertz, they get 9 lives. They get as many. They make mistakes. They're underwhelming. But I feel like Smith Rowe, if he does not perform in the 10 minutes that he has, that's him out for the next 5 games. So just weird for me. It's
10 minutes.
Strange.
That's a little generous.
That's 8 minutes more than Arteta likes to give him.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel there's so much pressure on that kid when he comes on. Can you imagine? He's got like 2-3 minutes to do something, and no wonder when he misses something, his hands in his head because he's thinking, "That's it. I'm not playing for the next 7 games now." Yeah. And I think another thing with Eddie's argument is I don't see what he brings when he comes on either. There's nothing.
No, he brings nothing to the table when he comes on.
Yeah, so you have no impact player either. So I would probably sell both.
You guys know I'm biased, obviously. Like, I love Smith Rowe. He's probably my favorite player in the current squad. But I do find it just crazy that he's proven to be deadly off the bench at the tail end of
Was it 6 consecutive games he scored in coming off the bench?
Yeah, exactly. And he's not given it. I mean, I'd be putting him on 75 minutes every game, no matter what. You know?
Yeah.
Because he's proven that he can be an impact off the bench.
Yeah.
But
I
he's
do.
not going to do that
part
in
of it as
3
well.
minutes. You know,
I think part of it as well is Arteta doesn't like making subs. Like, he just doesn't like making subs. He brings one sub on at 70 minutes because he has to, and then makes the rest in the 88th minute. Like, he just don't like making subs, and he doesn't make subs first. Have you noticed this? He waits for the other manager to make a sub so he can see their changes before he does his, which is fine. But sometimes you've got to be proactive.
It's weird. It's weird. The whole thing is like I'm totally pro Arteta. Like, I'm not. You know, I know these last few results have went against him, and you can question some of his decisions, but like I'm still totally pro Arteta. But this substitutions thing, his game management, I think still needs a lot of work. And we've talked about this a lot, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has. It's like it's an obvious thing that's an issue, and it was an issue with Wenger towards the end because he had the 69th minute sub that he made every game. It was the first sub, the only sub. And then with Emery, it was the complete opposite, right? You'd get to half time and all of a sudden there'd be 4 changes. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. But it's
I think another thing, and I think you mentioned it before, Gav, is youth as well. I mean, yesterday, Klopp happily will bring on youth players in the FA Cup, and he will make that decision at 0-0. But I don't know why. You know, you can see it's not working with these players, Nelson and these guys. Can Winieri get 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I mean, what is the harm? I don't know what the harm is. And he seems to be really reluctant. If you have them on the bench, he was on the bench, right? I swear I saw him on the bench.
Yeah, Winieri was on the bench.
If you have him on the bench.
Sousa was on the bench and Rule Walters was on the bench.
Why have them on the bench then? I mean, I guess if you have no other options, but you must think they have some ability to be available on the bench. I just don't know why he doesn't. He's reluctant to at least try one youth player. And that's what I liked about George Graham, in particular, Wenger as well. But they were not scared to bring on a youth player when needed, if they're talented enough. And I think Arteta just seems to be a little bit off when it comes to youth.
Cedric was also on the bench, by the way.
And
he'd be ahead of any of them.
We didn't bring him on, man. We missed a trick there.
Yeah, I know.
Right, well, the boys have all gone for a reset in Dubai. Let's hope that they do some shooting practice while they're out there because we need it. We come back.
It would help, yeah.
Yeah, we come back with a home game against Crystal Palace, and I don't know, like we were saying at the start, it's kind of we're in the area of no mistakes from here on in. We literally cannot afford to slip up again.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right, guys. Well, it's been our first one for a while, so thank you, guys. We'll definitely try and be a bit more regular now. We've all had a lot of stuff going on, but New Year, hopefully settle down and we'll get back to it. So it's good night from me. Good night, guys, and I will see you next time.
Happy New Year.
Guten Abend.
Happy New Year.